Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. The signs were there all along, in my mother's tight-lipped disappointment whenever I mentioned my business classes, in my father's lectures about real careers over dinner, in the way they showcased my cousin Michael's medical school acceptance letter in the living room while my business school honors gathered dust in a drawer. But nothing could have prepared me for that spring afternoon when everything fell apart. I remember every detail of that day. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom outside our family home, their delicate pink petals drifting across our perfectly manicured lawn. I had just returned from my college graduation ceremony, my business degree with highest honors still rolled up in my hand. The familiar scent of my mother's famous bulgogi wafted from the kitchen. She always cooked Korean food on important days, a reminder of our heritage and her expectations. Sarah, my father's voice cut through the air like a scalpel. He stood in the doorway of his home office, still wearing his white doctor's coat from the hospital. We need to talk. The office was a shrine to medical achievement. Multiple diplomas and certifications lined the walls, interrupted only by photographs of my father with various dignitaries at medical conferences. A model of the human skeleton stood sentinel in the corner, its empty eye sockets watching our family drama unfold. "Your mother and I have been patient," he began, each word measured and precise. "We gave you 4 years to come to your senses about this business degree." He spat out the words like they tasted bitter. "But now it's time to grow up. We've arranged for you to take the MCAT next month. With some intensive studying, you can still apply for medical school this cycle." I gripped my diploma tighter, the paper crinkling under my fingers. "Dad, I'm not becoming a doctor. I have a job lined up with Anderson Consulting. They're one of the top healthcare consulting firms in the country." A consultant. My mother appeared in the doorway, her face twisted with disgust. "You want to be one of those people who tell real doctors how to do their jobs." "I want to help improve healthcare systems," I tried to explain. "Make hospitals more efficient, help more patients get better care." Enough. My father slammed his hand on the desk. "No daughter of mine will waste her life pushing papers. You're a Kim. Your grandfather was a doctor. I'm a doctor. Your cousin Michael is becoming a doctor. This is our legacy." "It's your legacy, Dad, not mine." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's hands trembled as she gripped her apron. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "Then perhaps you should find a new family to disappoint." His voice was cold, clinical. "If you won't uphold the Kim family tradition, you are no longer welcome in this house." "You can't be serious." But looking at their faces, I knew they were. "Mom?" She turned away, wiping her eyes. "Listen to your father, Sarah. Medicine is everything to this family. Without it, what are we?" "I'm your daughter," I whispered. "Isn't that enough?" My father opened his desk drawer and pulled out an envelope. "Here's $100. Take it and leave. When you're ready to apologize and apply to medical school, you can come back." I stared at the envelope, memories flooding my mind. All the times I'd helped organize patient files at their private practice during summer breaks. The nights I'd spent researching healthcare management innovations, dreaming of ways to modernize their outdated systems. The pride in my voice when I told people my parents ran Kim Family Medical Center, one of the most respected private hospitals in the city. None of it mattered. To them, I was just another failed dream. I reached into my wallet and pulled out the $27 I had left from my graduation dinner, placed it on top of the $100 they'd given me. $127. That's my starting capital. Remember this moment because one day you'll regret choosing your legacy over your daughter. My father scoffed. Big words from someone who can't even write a prescription. I turned and walked out of that office, out of that house, leaving behind everything I'd ever known. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a message from Anderson Consulting. "Excited to have you join us next month. Your insights into healthcare systems are exactly what we're looking for." They had no idea how personal my mission to transform healthcare had just become. I spent that night in a cheap motel, using precious dollars from my $127 fund. As I lay on the lumpy mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling, I made myself a promise. I would build something bigger than Kim Family Medical Center. Something that would change not just one hospital, but the entire healthcare system. And when I succeeded, I would make sure my parents remembered exactly why they lost their daughter. The next morning, I walked into a local bank and opened a business account with $100 of my remaining money. The teller looked at me skeptically as I filled out the paperwork, probably wondering what kind of business I could possibly start with such a small amount. "Name of business?" she asked, fingers hovering over her keyboard. I thought for a moment, then smiled. "Phoenix Healthcare Solutions." Phoenix, like the bird that rises from the ashes, exactly like that. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into my role at Anderson Consulting. During the day, I analyzed healthcare systems, identified inefficiencies, and proposed solutions that saved hospitals millions. At night, I built Phoenix Healthcare Solutions, starting with a simple website and business cards I designed myself. My first client came through pure chance. At a coffee shop near Anderson's offices, I overheard two doctors complaining about their struggling private practice. Without thinking, I turned around and introduced myself. "Your problem isn't your medical care," I told them after listening to their issues. "It's your systems. You're losing 30% of your potential revenue through inefficient billing practices and scheduling gaps." They looked skeptical, but desperate enough to listen. I offered to fix their systems for a small fee plus 10% of any revenue increases for the first year. They agreed, probably assuming they had nothing to lose. Within 3 months, their practice's revenue had doubled. Word spread quickly through the medical community. Soon, I was juggling my day job with an increasing number of private clients. My tiny motel room became my office, its walls covered with flowcharts and system analyses. 6 months after being kicked out, I had saved enough to rent a small office space. A year later, Phoenix Healthcare Solutions had 10 employees and was managing systems for 15 medical practices. I never told my clients about my parents or Kim Family Medical Center. In fact, I rarely used my full name, going by Sarah P. for Phoenix in all business dealings, but I kept tabs on my family's hospital through industry news and gossip. They were struggling, though they'd never admit it. The healthcare landscape was changing, becoming more corporate, more efficient. Private hospitals like theirs were being squeezed by larger healthcare groups with better systems and more resources. I could have helped them. I knew exactly how to modernize their operations, how to make them competitive in the new healthcare economy. But they had made their choice, and I was making mine. By my 3rd year, Phoenix Healthcare Solutions had expanded beyond simple consulting. We were buying struggling practices, modernizing them, and either selling them for profit or incorporating them into our growing network. Each acquisition taught me more about the industry, about the complex dance of healthcare politics and economics. I hired the best talent I could find, doctors who understood both medicine and business, tech experts who could build cutting-edge medical systems, lawyers who specialize in healthcare regulations. Together, we were building something revolutionary, a healthcare group that combined medical excellence with business efficiency. The irony wasn't lost on me. In rejecting my parents' dream of becoming a doctor, I had ended up deeper in the medical world than they could have imagined. But I was doing it my way, proving that there was more than one path to improving healthcare. 5 years after being kicked out, Phoenix Healthcare Solutions had become Phoenix Medical Group, a billion-dollar corporation that owned 30 hospitals across the country. We were known for turning around struggling facilities, for introducing innovative systems that improved both patient care and profitability. I had an apartment in the city's most exclusive building, a corner office with a view of the skyline, and more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But I still kept that initial bank receipt for my $100 deposit in my wallet, a reminder of where I started. And then, on a crisp autumn morning, my assistant walked into my office with news that made my heart stop. "Miss Phoenix? Kim Family Medical Center just filed for bankruptcy protection. They're looking for buyers." I picked up the report she brought, my hands steady despite the emotions churning inside me. The numbers told a familiar story. Declining revenues, mounting debts, outdated systems. Everything I had warned them about, everything I could have prevented. "Should I add them to the potential acquisitions list?" my assistant asked. I looked out my office window at the city below, at the empire I'd built from $127 and spite. "No," I said finally, "this one's personal. Set up a meeting with their board. It's time for Sarah Kim to come home." What I didn't know then was that my parents' hospital was just the beginning. The real battle, and the real revenge, was still to come. The next morning, as I prepared for the board meeting that would begin my takeover of Kim Family Medical Center, I couldn't help but remember my father's words. Big words from someone who can't even write a prescription. He was right. I couldn't write prescriptions, but I could sign checks that would decide the fate of his beloved hospital, and that was just the start of what I could do. Part 2. The Return. The Kim Family Medical Center looked smaller than I remembered. The building that once loomed large in my childhood memories now seemed tired, its once gleaming facade dulled by time and neglect. The state-of-the-art facility sign was faded, its letters peeling, a perfect metaphor for the hospital's current state. I adjusted my Armani suit, a power move that cost more than the $127 I'd left with 5 years ago. My heels clicked against the marble floor of the lobby as I walked toward the boardroom, each step echoing with purpose. The security guard did a double take as I passed. Perhaps he remembered the teenage girl who used to help file papers during summer breaks. Ms. Phoenix? My assistant, Lisa, appeared at my elbow. The board is waiting. Your parents are already inside. I paused, checking my reflection in a nearby window. I looked different now, sharper, harder, successful in a way that would have been impossible to imagine 5 years ago. Have they been told who's coming? No. As requested, they only know they're meeting with the CEO of Phoenix Medical Group. I smiled. Perfect. The boardroom was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs, and an overwhelming sense of old-world medical tradition. The kind of room where important men made important decisions about other people's lives. Now it would witness something entirely different. My father sat at the head of the table, still wearing his white coat like armor. My mother sat beside him, her face lined with worry she couldn't quite hide. The other board members, mostly old family friends and colleagues, filled the remaining seats. All of them had watched me grow up. None of them recognized me now. Thank you all for meeting today. I began, my voice steady and professional. I'm Sarah Phoenix, CEO of Phoenix Medical Group. The silence that followed my introduction was absolute. I watched the recognition dawn in their eyes. First confusion, then disbelief, finally understanding. My father's face had gone pale, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. Sarah? My mother's voice was barely a whisper. Sarah Kim. Actually, it's Sarah Phoenix now, legally changed. I moved to the front of the room, plugging my laptop into the projector. Shall we discuss the future of Kim Family Medical Center? This is ridiculous. My father finally found his voice, standing up abruptly. We called this meeting to speak with Phoenix Medical Group's CEO about a potential acquisition, not to. And you are speaking with Phoenix Medical Group's CEO. I cut him off smoothly, pulling up our company's latest financial reports. Now let's talk about your hospital's $17 million debt, your outdated systems, and your declining patient satisfaction scores. He sputtered, you can't possibly own a billion-dollar medical group? I finished for him. The same group that's been buying up struggling hospitals across the country. The one that's revolutionizing healthcare management? I clicked to the next slide, showing Phoenix Medical Group's current holdings. I think you'll find I can, and I do. Dr. Park, one of the senior board members, leaned forward adjusting his glasses. Sarah, you built all this? Remember when I said I wanted to improve healthcare systems? I looked directly at my parents. This is what I meant. Phoenix Medical Group owns 30 hospitals, all running at peak efficiency. We've increased patient care quality while reducing costs. Everything I tried to tell you about 5 years ago, I've proven it works. The board members exchanged glances. They knew the numbers. Kim Family Medical Center was months away from complete collapse. Phoenix Medical Group was their best hope for survival. My father stood up again, his face flushed. We'll find another buyer. Will you? I pulled up another slide. Your debt is held by Sterling Financial. Would you like to know who owns the controlling interest in Sterling? I paused, letting the implications sink in. I've spent 5 years building a safety net around this hospital, making sure that when it finally failed, and we all knew it would, I would be the only viable option. You planned this? My mother's voice cracked. All this time? No, Mother. You and Dad planned this the day you chose your precious medical legacy over your daughter. I kept my voice level, professional, even as years of hurt threatened to surface. I just made sure I'd be in a position to pick up the pieces. The next hour was a blur of numbers, projections, and terms. I laid out Phoenix Medical Group's offer. We would assume all debt, modernize the facilities, and retain most of the staff. The hospital would keep its name, but management would be completely restructured. And the current leadership? Dr. Park asked carefully, glancing at my father. Dr. Kim will be offered a position as a senior physician, focusing solely on patient care. I met my father's glare steadily. All administrative duties will be handled by Phoenix Medical Group's management team. The message was clear. He would lose all control over the hospital he built. You can't do this, he said, but his voice had lost its authority. This hospital is my life's work. No, father, this hospital was your dream. Now it's my reality. I stood up, gathering my materials. The offer expires in 48 hours. I suggest you consider it carefully. Without Phoenix Medical Group, Kim Family Medical Center will be bankrupt within 3 months. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and one more thing. I pulled out my wallet and removed 2 worn bills. The same $127 I'd left with 5 years ago. Placed them on the table. I believe this belongs to you. Consider it my final repayment for choosing business over medicine. The walk back to my car was surreal. Through the hospital windows, I could see staff going about their duties, unaware that their entire world was about to change. In the parking lot, I passed my old parking spot, reserved for Dr. Kim, where I used to wait for rides home after helping out at the hospital. Lisa was waiting by the car. How did it go? Exactly as expected. I slid into the back seat, finally allowing myself to feel the weight of what had just happened. Have legal ready the paperwork. They'll sign. You seem very confident. They don't have a choice. I looked back at the hospital, remembering all the dreams and disappointments it held. And neither do I. That evening, as I sat in my penthouse office reviewing acquisition documents, my phone lit up with messages. First from my mother, a long emotional plea about family and forgiveness. Then from various board members, some congratulating me on my success, others trying to secure their positions in the new regime. Nothing from my father. I wasn't surprised. His pride had always been his weakness. The same pride that had made him throw away his daughter over a career choice would now cost him his hospital. Just before midnight, my security team alerted me to a visitor in the lobby. Through the security feed, I watched my father pace back and forth, still in his white coat, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Should we send him up? The security guard asked. I considered it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to make him wait, to let him feel the same helplessness I felt that night 5 years ago. But I was no longer that wounded girl with $127 to her name. I was Sarah Phoenix, CEO of a billion-dollar corporation. Send him up. The elevator ride must have felt eternal for him. When he finally stepped into my office, his eyes widened at the view, at the obvious signs of success surrounding his disappointing daughter. Nice office, he said stiffly. Better than a garage, I suppose. I gestured to a chair. Would you like to sit? He remained standing, his doctor's posture perfect even now. The board wants to accept your offer. I know. They think you'll save the hospital. I will. He flinched at my confidence. You really built all this by yourself? No, I stood up, walking to the window. I built it with the help of people who believed in me, people who saw that there's more than one way to help patients, people who didn't let their pride blind them to innovation. Sarah, he started, then stopped, seeming to struggle with words for the first time in his life. When you left, when we made you leave, you thought I'd come crawling back. I finished for him. That I'd realize you were right about medicine being the only worthy path. Instead, I built something bigger than you ever imagined possible. I was wrong, he said finally, the words seeming to physically pain him. I turned to face him, really looked at him for the first time in 5 years. The great Dr. Kim, the man who had loomed so large in my childhood, now seemed small in my massive office. Yes, you were. I picked up the acquisition contract from my desk. Sign this, and Kim Family Medical Center will survive. Fight me, and I'll let it collapse. Either way, I win. His hand shook slightly as he took the contract. Will you at least keep the Kim name? The hospital name stays. But make no mistake, from the moment you sign this, it's no longer yours. Everything you built, everything you dreamed of passing on to a doctor in the family, becomes part of Phoenix Medical Group. He nodded slowly, the fight finally leaving him. May I borrow a pen? I handed him my fountain pen. A Mont Blanc that cost more than that first $100 he'd given me to leave. He signed without reading, a broken man accepting defeat. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built, even if it's not what I wanted for you. Thank you, I said quietly, but I didn't build it for your pride. After he left, I stood at my window for a long time, watching the city lights twinkle below. Somewhere out there was a small motel room where a scared young woman had once promised herself she'd prove everyone wrong. A cheap bank branch where $100 had become the seed of an empire. A coffee shop where a chance conversation had launched a revolution. I pulled out my phone and dialed Lisa. Schedule a full audit of Kim Family Medical Center for next week. I want to know everything, every outdated system, every inefficiency, every opportunity for improvement. Of course, and Dr. Kim. I thought about my father's defeated expression as he signed away his life's work. Give him an office on the 4th floor. No administrative access, just a standard physician's privileges. Let him keep his white coat and his pride. That's all he has left now. But the story wasn't over. Taking over Kim Family Medical Center was just the beginning. Because in those 5 years of building Phoenix Medical Group, I discovered something bigger than revenge. I found a mission. The healthcare system was broken, not just in my parents' hospital but everywhere, and I was just getting started fixing it. The real question was, how far would I go to change everything they thought they knew about medicine? Part 3. The Revolution. The audit of Kim Family Medical Center was worse than I expected. 5 years of stubbornly clinging to outdated methods had left the hospital in shambles. Equipment needed updating, staff needed training, and the entire administrative system was practically medieval. Standing in my father's, now my, office, I reviewed the findings with my executive team. Their patient record system is entirely paper-based, my IT director reported, disbelief evident in his voice. In 2024, it's like stepping back in time. I ran my finger along the dusty oak desk, remembering how many times I'd stood before it as a child, listening to lectures about the noble profession of medicine. How long to implement our standard systems? 3 months minimum, and that's if we work around the clock. Make it 2. I looked out the window at the hospital grounds. The cherry trees were blooming again, just like the day I'd left. I want this place transformed before the cherry blossoms fall. The next weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I moved my office temporarily to the hospital, overseeing every detail of the transformation. Staff were retrained, systems were modernized, and the entire facility was dragged forcefully into the modern era. My father kept his head down, seeing his patients and avoiding me. Sometimes I catch glimpses of him in the hallways, his white coat no longer carrying the same authority it once did. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. My mother tried a different approach. She started leaving containers of homemade bulgogi in my office, just like she used to when I helped at the hospital during summer breaks. I returned each one untouched with a polite note, "Thank you, but I have lunch meetings." The local medical community buzzed with gossip about the prodigal daughter's triumphant return. Some praised my success, others criticized my hostile takeover of my own family's hospital. My cousin Michael, now a resident at a prestigious hospital across town, gave interviews about the tragedy of the situation. I ignored it all, focusing instead on the numbers. Within the first month, patient satisfaction scores rose by 15%. By the second month, operating costs had decreased by 22%. The hospital was healing, even if my family wasn't. Then came the incident that changed everything. I was working late one night, reviewing implementation reports, when the emergency alert system I'd installed lit up. A major traffic accident had occurred on the highway, multiple casualties, severe trauma cases. Under the old system, Kim Family Medical Center would have diverted most cases to larger hospitals. But we weren't the old system anymore. I rushed to the emergency department, watching as our new protocols kicked in. Digital systems tracked bed availability in real time. AI-assisted triage software helped prioritize cases. Staff movements were choreographed with military precision, guided by efficiency algorithms I'd spent years perfecting. And there, in the middle of it all, was my father. His white coat was stained with blood as he moved from patient to patient, his experienced hands steady even in chaos. For the first time, I saw him truly seeing our new systems in action, how they supported rather than replaced medical expertise, how they helped doctors save more lives. Hours later, when the crisis had passed, he found me in my office. 14 critical patients, he said quietly. We didn't lose a single one. I looked up from my laptop. That's what happens when you combine good medicine with good systems. He stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then, your mother misses you. We both do. I've been here every day for 2 months. You know what I mean, he sighed, suddenly looking very tired. When did you become so hard, Sarah? The night my parents told me I was worth nothing without a medical degree. I kept my voice level, professional. The same night I learned that sometimes you have to choose between being loved and being respected. And you chose respect. I chose success, on my own terms. I turned back to my work. The cherry blossoms are falling, Father. How does it feel to watch your old world fall with them? He left without answering, but something had shifted. The next day, I found a stack of patient files on my desk, cases where our new systems had made a critical difference. A peace offering, perhaps, or maybe just acknowledgement. By the 3rd month, Kim Family Medical Center had become the flagship of Phoenix Medical Group's new healthcare model. We were receiving inquiries from hospitals across the country, all wanting to learn our methods. The same board members who had doubted me now fought for chances to sign my praises to industry publications. My father gradually began attending administrative meetings, not as a leader but as an observer. He asked questions about the systems, showed interest in the improvements, small steps but significant ones. Then came the day I found him training younger doctors on how to use our new diagnostic software. It's quite extraordinary, he was saying as I passed by the conference room. The AI can spot patterns we might miss, but it still needs our medical judgment to make final decisions. It's not replacing us, it's making us better doctors. I stood in the doorway, watching the man who had once dismissed all business innovations as threats to real medicine, now championing our systems. That evening, he knocked on my office door again. May I come in? I gestured to a chair. The cherry blossoms, he said, looking out at the bare trees. They're gone. Yes. And with them, my old hospital. He turned to face me. You've built something remarkable here, Sarah. Something I was too proud to see coming. I thought of that young woman with $127 of all the nights she worked while others doubted her. I couldn't have done it as a doctor. No, he agreed quietly. You've done something harder. You've changed how doctors work, how we think, how we help people. He placed an envelope on my desk. I'd like to retire. I opened the envelope. Inside was his resignation letter, along with a proposal for a teaching position, training new doctors on integrating modern healthcare systems with traditional medical practice. You want to teach. I want to help build the future you've shown us is possible. He smiled slightly. If you let me. I studied him for a long moment. The great Dr. Kim, asking his business graduate daughter for permission to help shape the future of medicine. Life had a sense of irony after all. The position is yours, I said finally, on one condition. Name it. Have dinner with me tonight. You, me, and Mom. Not as CEO and staff, but as family. I held up my hand as he started to speak, not to forget or to pretend nothing happened, but to start something new. That night, over my mother's bulgogi, we talked, really talked, perhaps for the first time in years. About dreams and disappointments, about pride and prejudice, about the different ways people can heal others. I wanted you to be a doctor, my father said, because I thought that was the only way to make a difference in healthcare. I couldn't see that you had a bigger vision. And now? I asked. Now I understand that sometimes the best way to help people isn't always the traditional way. He reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry we couldn't see that sooner. 6 months later, Kim Family Medical Center was named Most Innovative Hospital by Healthcare Leadership magazine. The article featured a photo of me in my office, the hospital visible through the window behind me. On my desk, clearly visible, was a framed dollar bill, part of the $127 I'd left with 5 years ago. The caption read, Sarah Phoenix, formerly Kim, proves that sometimes the best medicine isn't practiced in a white coat. My father keeps a copy of that magazine in his teaching room. Next to it is a new photo, him teaching young doctors while I stand in the background, both of us working in different ways to improve healthcare. The cherry trees still bloom every spring outside the hospital, but now they remind me not of endings, but of new beginnings. Of how sometimes you have to lose everything to build something better. of how the hardest person to heal is often yourself. I still run Phoenix Medical Group, still work to revolutionize healthcare across the country. But now when I visit Kim Family Medical Center, I sometimes join my parents for dinner. We're not the same family we were, too much has happened for that. But we're building something new, something that respects both tradition and innovation. And sometimes, late at night in my office, I look at that framed dollar bill and smile. Because the scared young woman who left with $127 didn't just build an empire. She built a bridge between two worlds, between old medicine and new, between a father's dreams and a daughter's vision. That's worth more than all the medical degrees in the world. Last week, a young intern asked me if I regret not becoming a doctor. I showed her our latest patient outcome statistics, how our systems have helped save thousands of lives, how we've made healthcare more accessible and efficient across the country. I didn't become a doctor, I told her. I became something new. And sometimes that's exactly what medicine needs. My father, passing by at that moment, stopped and smiled. And sometimes, he added, that's exactly what a family needs too. The cherry blossoms are blooming again outside my window. But this time, they're not marking an ending. They're celebrating a revolution, in medicine and family, and in the heart of a woman who dared to heal healthcare her own way. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right.